Hi everyone, welcome to my discussion post for today. Today I want to talk about active listening, which is often called the ultimate antidote to poor communication. Personally, I find being an adept active listener most critical in two specific situations. Either a high stakes collaborative project with, let's say, classmates, my coworkers, and then also a cross functional team meeting. In those environments, people often come to the table with completely different goals, vocabularies, and different pressures. I defend this choice because without active listening, it is incredibly easy to mistake agreement for alignment. By intentionally paraphrasing a colleague's point or asking clarifying questions, I can ensure that we are actually solving the same problem or working towards the same problem. This practice doesn't just prevent costly rework, it actively builds trust and shows my team that I value their input over simply just getting my own point across. However, even the best active listeners face steep hurdles, so let's break down 4 major barriers to communication and look at specific strategies to overcome them. First, we have filtering. This happens when a sender intentionally manipulates information so that the receiver sees it more favorably. Like, for example, a teammate hiding bad news from their manager. I think a good strategy to counteract filtering is to create psychological safety and reward transparency. If you are the receiver, explicitly tell your team, I want the raw data, not the polished version. When bad news drops, treat it as a problem-solving opportunity rather than a reason to blame someone. Second, there are emotions. When we are highly stressed, angry, or even overly excited, our brains naturally misinterpret messages anyways. I believe the best strategy here is the pause and name technique. If you feel your pulse rising during a conversation, just intentionally hit the pause button in your brain and say something like, I care a lot about this project and I want to make sure I give this the right attention. Let me just take a 10-minute break and come back to this. This allows logic to override that adrenaline and stress. Third, we face information overload. In today's digital workplace especially, we are bombarded with endless emails, pings, data points, causing our brains to simply shut down or miss critical details. I believe the strategy here is gatekeeping and message chunking. As a sender, use bullet points, bold headers, and put your main action item in the very first sentence. As a receiver, practice boundary setting. Turn off notification during deep work blocks so that you can give your full attention to one message at a time. Fourth and finally are differing perceptions. We all interpret words through the lens of our own unique backgrounds, cultures, and past workplace experiences, meaning the exact same phrase can mean 2 totally different things to 2 people. I think the strategy here is to break the barrier, and you must actively verify understanding via paraphrasing. Never assume, instead, close the loop by saying, just to make sure we are on the same page, what I'm hearing is that X is our priority and not Y. Is that accurate? This forces both parties to align their mental models. To wrap all this up, active listening isn't a passive state of mind. It is actually active, disciplined practice. By recognizing when filtering emotions, overload, or differing perceptions are creeping into our space, we can deploy these strategies to keep our communication clean, efficient, and deeply human. Thank you so much for watching.